Hey, I'm Megan Piffner, and welcome to Mornings with Megan. Grab your coffee and let's have a combo. Welcome back to Mornings with Megan. If you haven't listened to part one of my conversation with Noelle yet, go back and start there because what we covered muscle as a metabolic organ, why bulking up overnight is basically impossible, and how progressive overload actually works is the foundation of what we're going to talk about today. In part two, we're getting into the metabolic side of this. Research out of the SWAN study, the longest large term study we have on women in midlife, found that hot flashes are directly correlated with higher insulin resistance, independent of weight or hormone levels. And insulin resistance rises through the menopause transition independent of age. This isn't about getting older. Something is shifting metabolically, whether or not you've gained a pound. Noelle is going to tell us exactly how building muscle helps mitigate this. Then we're talking about what the scale doesn't show you, training for the life you want instead of the body that you see in the mirror. And Noelle is going to speak directly to two different women, one who's never touched a weight and one who's done everything except strength training. Let's get back to it. I would love to switch gears here and step into the metabolic space. Something that I think that most women are never going to hear from their doctor is the
Mm,
research out of the SWAN study. It's the largest long-term study that we have on women in midlife. Found that hot flashes are directly correlated with higher insulin resistance, independent of weight and
mm,
separately, insulin resistance rises through perimenopause transition, independent of age. So this isn't about getting older, which is, I think, the rhetoric that a lot of people are told. And it's not about what the scale says.
mm,
Something is metabolically shifting in our body with this hormonal change, and your
mhm.
body handles blood sugar at a biochemical level different, even if you've never gained a pound. So, from a strength training standpoint, how does building muscle help prevent or maybe I should say, mitigate this shift?
So as you get older, especially for women, when you start losing estrogen, building and sustaining muscle becomes harder. And along with that, we notice that lifestyle changes happen. We just become more sedentary as we get older naturally. And so those together are like the perfect storm in terms of making you more insulin resistant, which then puts you at risk for diabetes. Next thing you know, now you've got high blood pressure, you've got all this stuff, and you're wondering, oh, is this just because I'm getting older? But building muscle is the way to combat all of that. Because remember, the thing about muscle, it has the unique ability to literally pull sugar out of your bloodstream and store it in the tissue. How cool is that? Like your body literally has its own defense system. And so the more of that, it's so much easier to regulate not just your blood sugar, but then also body fat storage because muscle also, because it's so metabolically active, burns so many calories just existing on your body without doing anything. And so the more of it you have, much easier it is to regulate your weight. Muscle is literally the only way that your body knows how to solve this problem. So you're not going to end up with a high body fat percentage, which then also causes other health issues. I don't know if you're familiar with PCOS and fatty liver, but that's also side effects of having too high of body fat in your body. So the best way to regulate blood sugar, regulate your weight is always, always, always muscle. It's so easy to think about it because muscle is something that anyone can attain just by doing this work. It's not something that's like only certain people can build muscle. Every one of us is capable of putting on muscle, regardless of your genetics, regardless of your exercise history, even if you never worked out a day in your life. It's something that we can all latch onto and take advantage of.
Is there a specific type of training that matters more as we get into the perimenopause space when it comes to our insulin sensitivity goals?
Strength training, lifting weights.
Does it matter
You got
if
to lift
it's
weights.
Is it matter if we are lifting heavier or lighter? Is volume a factor? Can we play with that? Or is there a better way to think about it?
Lifting heavier equates to this muscle protein synthesis process of allowing your muscles to break down and build back up stronger. You have to have the demand there. But honestly, any kind of resistance training, if you're not comfortable lifting super heavy, if you only feel comfortable working with 15, 20-pound weights, anything is better than nothing. The first thing is just getting yourself used to moving load. But I have to ask, if you're not lifting more than 5-pound weights, how heavy is your suitcase? How heavy is your child? Because the reality is, if you want to be able to show up in life, and live the life that you want and meet the demands that life places on you without having to rely on someone else to do it for you, then you have to start thinking about lifting and training your body under the same load that you expect from it in real life. Otherwise, it's like it doesn't know how to do it. Our body responds to the demands that we place on it. If there's no demand there, that's how we get hurt. That's how we lose the ability to do so.
I'm hearing that it's kind of this use it or lose it mentality. If
Mhm.
you wanna be able to put that suitcase above your head, you have to tell your body that it's important to put a suitcase above your head, and you have to practice
You have
putting
to
that
practice.
suitcase up.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
because we're
gotta.
either we're every week we're either regressing or we're progressing. There is no other way. Even you and I, people who are super fit, work out all the time, if I take 2 weeks off, what do you think is gonna happen? Of course, I'm gonna start to regress. This is just like a natural process that happens. Our body is literally always responding to the demand that we place on it. So if I stop placing the demand on it, it doesn't just stay there. This is a lifelong commitment. This is a lifestyle. We're not in it for 6 months. We're not in it just to get to that certain goal that we're after. We're in it for the long haul.
So let's talk a little bit about the number on the scale.
Mm.
Why can it stay exactly the same or even go up while somebody's body is fundamentally changing for the better?
Muscle weighs the same as fat. And so this is why I always say when clients ask, I want to lose weight, and I say, let's rephrase that. We want to improve our body composition. And let's forget about BMI. That is so outdated now. Body composition is everything because this is what tells us what our body is actually made up of. The scale just gives us one number. It doesn't tell you how much of that is fat, how much of that is muscle, water weight. So you need to get a better understanding of what that number actually means. And that's where having a smart scale, which is so awesome that these are so popular now and so readily accessible, because it gives you more insight. So you see exactly what's happening on the inside. Someone could weigh, let's just say 125 pounds, and from the outside be super slender. And you might think, oh, that person's in pretty good shape because they're slender. But they have a high body fat percentage that you can't see to the naked eye. And that actually has very high risk factors for things like cancer and heart disease. It's not just the stereotypical overweight person that you see. Skinny fat is a huge alarming problem in this country too that we have to be aware of. So 125, that person could be look from the outside very slender, and then you have another person that weighs 125 and has more muscle on their body, has a very muscular physique. Does that mean that this person is are they equal? No, because they weigh the same weight? No. Very, very different body makeups. And I always use myself as an example because when I started on this journey, I actually intentionally put on 30 pounds of weight. Can you believe that? At my lightest, I was like 127 and I got all the way up to about 160. Right now, I'm 155. But if you look at me, you would never guess that in a million years because size wise, I take up the same space. Weight wise, I weigh a heck of a lot more. But again, that's why the scale is so deceiving. And we have to really let go of this obsession with a number. In fact, we should be thinking the opposite. I always tell clients if you're trying to build muscle, if that scale is not going up, you're not putting on muscle. Unless you are losing fat at the exact proportion in which you're gaining muscle, which is very unlikely or just for like maybe will happen for a short period of time. But at some point, it's going to tip. If you're not focusing on seeing that scale go up, then you're not building muscle. So we have to get comfortable with seeing a higher number, even knowing that our body composition is improving.
That's such an important distinction to make because I think that so many people have this idea in their head of what a healthy person and a not healthy person looks like. And I think
Hmm.
that we have decided certain body types are or aren't healthy and they are missing the entire point, which is how metabolically healthy they are. It's like judging a book by its cover. You don't know what's going on under the hood. And that person that you were describing that's 125 pounds might be walking around with full insulin resistance. They might be walking around with high blood pressure. They might be walking around with extremely out of bounds lipids. And you're never going to know that just from looking at them from the outside. And so, thinking about the structure and the way that you're supporting your body by having this muscle really can change how you look. And I think that there's this other misconception about that number on the scale being related to how they're going to feel or how their pants fit. And I think this is something that maybe you can speak to. How would you walk through the frustrations that this client is having where she can't let go of that number on the scale, but her pants are looser. She feels stronger, but she still just can't let go of that number? Because I think that's a really big challenge that a lot of women are working through, especially in this phase. They want to weigh what they weighed when they were like 22.
Yeah, and it's like something that we attach so closely to our identity. It's amazing how I see that all the time still, women who just they don't care about anything else. They just want to see that that number is what they want it to be. I like to challenge these women to think about it this way, which is how I like to think about it, which is, wouldn't it be awesome if you were the fittest you've ever been in your life and you weighed a lot more than you've ever weighed in your life? And you go to ask someone, well, how much do you think I weigh? And they say to you, oh, I think you weigh 130 because of how you look. You look fit, you look lean, you look strong, and you actually weigh 15, 20, 30 pounds more than that. I find that to be more gratifying, more props to you for being able to fool that person, because this is such a it's just a mindset shift. It's just like how we associate what we look at as fit and healthy. It's just a shift in your perspective. It's really being able to look at it from a different angle, because nobody is walking around looking at you trying to guess your weight. How
No.
silly is that? You know what I'm saying? And nobody cares. If you hit your goal weight, who are you trying to prove? Do you think that your best friend's going to care? Is that going to be like something that they remember you by? Are your
Definitely
kids gonna
not.
care? Is your partner be like, "Yes, my wife is finally at the weight that she was when I married her." What they're gonna care about is how you move, what your body's capable of, how strong you are. That is so much more telling than a number. And I think women realize that when you see someone walking down the street that is works out hard and obviously is in incredible shape, you're not thinking about what they weigh. You don't care
No,
about what they weigh. You're
definitely
paying
not.
attention to how freaking good they look. And you're thinking,
Yeah,
well, I
I'm
wonder
looking
what
at her
they're doing.
arms going,
Yeah.
what's she
So like
doing
then
at the gym?
exactly. So if that's not what we fixate on in other people, why are we so fixated upon that in ourselves? If no one cares but us, then why do we care so much?
Culture. I feel like the media. I feel like we've been trained since we were young to have this number, and it's such an unfortunate myth or stereotype or story that just won't die. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that if we keep getting more information about the importance of muscle and having these strong bodies, that we can put this to bed and get women to start
Yes.
focusing on the things that are more important. So, you have talked about training for the life that you want and not the body that you want to see. Can you say more about that?
Yes. So I always think about the changes in your body as being the bonus. I always tell clients this too. It's like, we're not training to look a certain way. That just happens to be something that we gain in this process. We're training so that we can show up in real life the way we want to. So if you want to be able to pick up and do an activity that you've never done before that's physically demanding and not have to think twice that your body can handle it, that's what we're training for. Your kids are getting older. You want to be able to still pick them up if you need to. God forbid you need to run out of a burning house with them. That's what we're training for. You want to do your gardening and you want to be able to do it all yourself and not have to hire someone to do the labor for you. That's what we're training for. We're training so that we can continue living the life that we want now. And what we do now is what is deciding how we're going to show up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. So it's really about setting yourself up for long-term health, long-term independence, and just having autonomy in your body. And then what that means in terms of your risk factors with aging, because as we get older, obviously we have more risks that come into play. So what we're training for is to keep a body that we know is capable of fighting off those risks and keeping ourselves out of the doctor's chair. I mean, that's really what matters most. If God forbid something happens, so you're not going to be thinking about, well, God, I wish I looked better right now. You're going to be thinking, I wish I could still do what I used to do. If only I did then what I know I should have done, where would I be now?
The way that you're speaking about this reminds me very much of thinking about your financial future when we think about retirement and savings and putting into our 401k or our IRA and how we're taking care of our financial health of ourselves and our family and our future generations. And the way that you are talking about this makes me think about how are we setting up ourselves for that retirement from a physical standpoint? How are we building that freedom? And I think that freedom to do what we want to do. So you work all this time, you put into your
Mm-hmm.
401k, you do all those
True.
things. But if you don't take care of your body, then you don't have that freedom. You can't do the things. And that
Right,
is just
exactly. And
unfortunate,
then what
right?
yeah, and then what's retirement if you can't live your life and you're just, like, stuck in a chair all day? It's like, what
Yes,
did you
how
live your whole
horrible
life
to
for?
work until 65 only to be so metabolically unhealthy and so unfit that you can't get on a plane and go to see the places that you want, or you can't pick up the grandbaby. You can't get on the ground and play with him. That is just so sad to me. And thinking about that as the gradual beginning of the end, it's a slow
Mhm,
decline from there if we don't spend time focusing on this.
absolutely.
So let's speak to two different women listening right now.
Mhm.
First, let's talk to the woman who has never set foot in the gym. Maybe she's a little intimidated. Maybe she hasn't had time to learn. What do you tell her about getting started?
When you're starting out, you actually have an advantage because someone who is completely green to lifting and working out, your body has to work twice as hard to adapt and learn this new thing that you're asking it to do. So you're going to see a lot of change happen quickly. Whereas someone who's more seasoned, who's been doing this for a long time, their bar is much higher. So they have to work out a lot more frequently each week to get the same progress that you're making week over week because they are more experienced. So that's a nice benefit that you have being so new. And the nice thing is that once you start reaping the benefits right away. It's not like something where you have to like give it 3 months before you start seeing any change. I mean, the beauty of doing this and following a program is that every week you see incrementally how your body is getting stronger, recovering faster, you're building more stamina, your tolerance is improving, you're capable of more, and it just keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better. It becomes more and more rewarding. So it's like the more you show up, the more you get back, right? And so it's like this thing where it's like you invest, but you gain so much more than what you invest.
I'm a little jealous of this green body that you speak of. Sometimes I'm like, it's really nice that I can do all these things at the gym, but wouldn't it be great if I could just go back and have those quick gains? I
I
remember
know,
when I first
right?
started working out, right? You just got you would like, oh my gosh, I only worked out for half an hour and boom, okay, great. Like, if I just had a little bit
Exactly.
more, what else can happen? Okay, now let's speak to the woman who's probably been working out her entire adult life. She loves cardio. Maybe she's dabbled in Pilates or yoga, but she has never, ever thought about strength training until she heard this conversation. What's
Mhm.
the difference with how you would speak to her about getting started?
So, there's nothing wrong with cardio. We need to have cardio. Cardio has its place. But strength training is the glue that holds it together. So, strength training is not only going to help you improve your body composition, help you put on muscle, help you live better, live longer, but it's also going to help you become a better runner. If you love running or if you love cardio, strength training is going to help you gain more power. It's going to train those muscles to have more resilience. So, you're going to get more out of your performance doing what you love. And it's just important to also think about like, your bones too. Running, for example, is a very repetitive sport. Your joints take a lot of impact, and so one of the ways that you can really focus on protecting your joint health is doing strength training because we're not just training our muscles, we're training our bones. We're building bone density. Women in particular are more at risk for osteoporosis. Don't quote me on this, but I think runners, women who are runners, are also even more at risk for osteoporosis. And so this is the way that we prevent that is developing a well-rounded program that checks all the boxes and helps us not only get faster if running and cardio is your thing, but also become more resilient, stronger in your body.
I think you're right. When I look at the literature, women who are running are not doing the things that they need to put enough stress on the bone in order to help with
Mhm.
that turnover to preserve that bone density. So
Mhm.
your runners and swimmers are both in that space. So if they're not putting that strain, then they're not getting that bone protection.
And it's important because it's just a forward motion. So strength training is important too that you're thinking about how do I get stronger in a lateral plane? You have to think about like how are you using your muscles when you play that sport or you do that activity? And you need to be training your muscles differently so that they're not only getting stronger doing that one thing, that they become resilient in other planes and moving in other forms. So that's the other part when you think about programming.
Moving in multiple planes. I love this idea because life does not just happen in forward motion. We
Yes.
move sideways, we jump up and down and backwards and bend over and pick things up. And so it's important to be thinking about all the directions that we might be moving our body.
Mhm.
If someone is only going to remember one thing from this conversation, what do you want that one thing to be?
Oh man.
I know it's a tough one.
I think that we didn't talk about this, but this is the thing that really hits home for me. We do this work. We work on our strength. We work on building a body that is bulletproof against aging and against disease and just all cause mortality because we want to be able to have a baseline of what a healthy body feels like so that we know when something is wrong. So if we don't do this work and develop this regimen, then we can never know the difference between a good day and a bad day or when something is just not right. And a lot of times when something strikes that's a problem that we need to resolve, it's always like something simple. You're more out of breath. Well, your body just feels more tired than it usually is. It's the small little details that we tend to overlook, but we're less likely to overlook those details if we're living in a body that is performing and moving at its best.
I love that, knowing the difference between having a good day and a bad day. And you're right, when we're not well, we're not maintaining our body. Sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between a good day and a bad day.
And just knowing when something is wrong that needs your attention.
Knowing when to address things, also super important. So we're not ignoring that and not going to the doctor and getting more unwell.
Mhm.
Noel, it has been such a pleasure having you on today. Please let us know where everyone can find you.
Yes, so you can find me on my website, which is leadingedgeny.com. You can find me on Instagram, also Leading Edge NY, or my personal Instagram, Bodied by Noelle.
Don't worry, everyone. We will link everything in the show notes. Thank you for spending this time with us. I am so pleased that you got to hear Noelle speak. I think that she had so much information to share with us on how to take care of our bodies, think about longevity, and how we want to move in the world. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Can you do me a favor? If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with one woman in your life who needs a different story about perimenopause. Our bodies didn't come with a user manual, and this perimenopause thing can feel confusing and lonely. But you are not alone. You are not crazy, and you are definitely not broken. And maybe someone in your life needs that reminder today. Let's spread the word and be kind to each other and ourselves. Now, the legal bit. I'm a nutritionist, but I'm not your nutritionist. This podcast is for information and education only. No client relationship is formed. Always seek medical advice when necessary. I'll see you next Wednesday morning.